Singapore has unveiled details on its marriage and parenthood workgroup with a focus on shifting mindsets and mapping out a longer-term plan. It comes as the country's birth rate reached a historic low of 0.87 last year in what has been described as an existential challenge. Mohammed Bahajaj reports.
Fewer marriages, fewer babies. That's a trend the work group is trying to turn around. And it's doing so by bringing employers, community organizations, and Singaporeans together to shift mindsets.
The overall approach is we'll map out a broad long-term strategy. About half of that can be addressed by policy. So you can expect some policy changes, policy moves. But given that this has to do with mindsets, it has to do with relationships, has to do with attitudes, and in some cases emotions, I think we also need whole of society.
Ms. Indrani will chair the group supported by 8 other political office holders, spanning health, education, manpower, and other relevant ministries. On the topic of singles, Ms. Indrani noted that there are many young people who are finding it difficult to find a partner, especially after entering the workforce, and there's a feeling of uncertainty when it comes to meeting people online through dating apps. The work group is looking to create more opportunities for people to meet and interact, with the possibility of even finding a life partner. Speaking to reporters, Ms. Indrani identified housing, caregiving and preschool education as areas where changes could be made earlier than others. Reviewing preschool accessibility is on the cards, along with ensuring affordable housing. Other areas focus on helping mothers return to the workforce, while creating supportive environments to better balance work and parenthood commitments.
If you ask what is the outcome I would like to see, I'd like to be able to see employees being able to go home in time to have dinner with their families. They may well choose to do some work after they've had dinner and time with their families, but that's it. Time for the families over the weekends, and also actually uninterrupted time when they are taking the annual leave, where they can actually focus on recharging and coming back more productive rather than doing work whilst you're on leave.
One analyst says this will take small changes, from how workplaces are organized to how expectations around parenting are shaped.
Of course, very often mindsets do follow with policy. When there are policy enhancement, when there are support in the ground, there seems to be a lot more attempt to walk the talk. Some of these shifts happen faster than later.
A full report by the work group is expected to be released early next year, with possible recommendations released before that.
And to delve deeper into these issues, Dr. Mathew Mathews joins us in studio tonight. Dr. Mathews, good to have you with us.
Good to have you.
Now, let's start with Singapore calling for this marriage and parenthood reset, right? That's after fertility rates have hit a historic low. So based on your research, is the issue that fewer people want children, or is it more that people feel that they can't afford the trade-offs that involves?
Yeah, I think when you look at most polls, you still continue to see that young people in Singapore do care about having families and starting families. So it's not really this departure from the norm of having families. It's really about the fact that there are trade-offs that people are a lot more concerned about. There's a lot more going for people, whether it's career, whether it's education, whether it's holiday plans, a whole range of things, and whether marriage and parenthood will be compatible for some of that. So quite a bit of the thinking has to be of how do you make that compatible with, how do you make marriage and parenthood compatible with many of the other aspirations people have.
The idea of financial support, Singapore has expanded that for families over the years, but the birth rates are still continuing to fall. So what do you think are then the biggest non-financial barriers that hold people back from starting families?
Well, and one is workplace culture, and the other one is, of course, the expectations one has about being a parent and what's expected of it. And then, of course, the third part is just even relationship formation. To start off with, before you think about parenthood, you think about how people actually form a relationship which is stable and get married. And that has been challenged a lot more. I think post-COVID, I think you increasingly have this concern that people have, that there are many options that they would have traditionally used, which no longer seem to be as available. People lose confidence in that. And of course, when you think about work culture, I mean, clearly that is one of the pressing issues that people face day in, day out, feeling that having children would not be so compatible if you have to be very, very focused at your work, be at the beck and call of an employer, and deal with the fact that the world of work is changing so fast that you might be unsettled at any time. So that kind of precarity makes people feel that, hey, maybe not time to bring a child into the world yet.
You've mentioned work culture quite a few times, so let's delve a bit more into that. What part specifically about Singapore's work culture do you feel is genuinely incompatible with family life as we know it? And do you think it's mainly about the long hours? Is it the unspoken agreements, lack of free time? What is it?
Yeah. Well, long hours, certainly Singapore does have long hours at work, and Singaporeans work quite a bit, but it's really maybe more the unspoken expectations that you have. Clearly there are enough opportunities for flexibility at the workplace here. People do understand that there's childcare leave availability, but yet when you use childcare leave, a set of parents feel that employers, their own colleagues might be unhappy about that, don't feel that they are team players, or feel that they're not taking it for the team. So these are concerns which are there, subtle as they might be, they have a major effect. Of course, that has a way of dampening people's willingness to try to grow their families.
Yeah, and already the word culture alludes to something a bit softer, a bit harder and intangible in that sense to tackle. Let's talk a bit about the idea of easing this pressure to be a perfect parent. The work group is definitely targeting that. How real is this anxiety, in your view, to be that perfect parent? How much do you think it shapes the decisions that parents or would-be parents would make when it comes to this?
People are concerned about being that good parent, and it's been shaped in various ways. People have this idea that if you make a choice to have a child today, then you should give your child the best. And the best could mean a whole range of things. Clearly, it means making sure that they have every opportunity possible, whether it's opportunity to have a good life, opportunity to do well in school, opportunity to have all the enrichment, tuition, everything to make them successful. And that can be very daunting because doing all that, plus ensuring that their emotional well-being is taken care of, ensuring that they have a good childhood. Many of these things don't seem to be, the playbook is not easy, and some of them seem to be very contradictory. And so young parents feel this immense pressure placed upon them, and sometimes it's hard to navigate. And when people have that choice, they say, well, rather not get into parenthood if it's going to be so daunting.
Well, Dr. Mathews, you've evaluated many social programs. So based on your analysis, where can government policies still do something to move the needle in this sense? And where do you find that we're actually reaching the hard limits of what might be more of a cultural problem?
Well, when it comes to, for instance, ensuring that there's ample childcare, making sure it's accessible, it's affordable, making sure that housing is affordable and accessible, these are ensuring that there are legislations to deal with workplaces. These are things you can actually legislate, and I think that there are definitely going to be returns in the process. But then there are other things. You can't make people fall in love, feel that they are emotionally stable, feel that they can go through the emotional difficulty of raising a child, for instance, feel that they are supported in that process from people around them. So all this requires something beyond what the government can do. It's really about what society would have to do.
For us to be able to evaluate whether this marriage and parenthood reset has actually worked or is successful, what markers would we be looking at, apart from the fertility numbers?
Yeah, fertility numbers will have to take a while before you really see that, and shocks can change that. But really, if you measure how people are looking at parenthood today, if you take a snap poll right now in terms of whether people feel that parenthood is compatible with workplaces, whether there's a maternity tax, whether fertility treatment is something that is not stigmatized, for instance, whether it's easy to get into a relationship or find someone suitable. Many of these speak about existing aspects of culture. You want to see those things shift over time, and I think if things are done right, I think we should be seeing some shift in many of these areas.
Well, Dr. Mathew, before we go, if you were a policymaker, what was that one area you feel that you would tackle first when it comes to this issue?
Well, I think there are many possibilities, but perhaps one has got to do with the education system. I think when you think about an area where parents feel undue pressure, it's about this fact that they feel that our education system extremely competitive. So some shaping of that, or some attempt to help people to know, hey, you don't have to be so concerned about having to put your kid through multiple tuition enrichment, but our system itself will be able to make them adaptive and make them successful. I think that might help quite a bit of that stress.
Reducing the pressure from there first. Well, thank you, Dr. Mathews, for coming in and sharing your insights with us. I've been speaking with Dr. Mathew Mathews from the Institute of Policy Studies Social Lab.